And it's where we go to the Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo. He is having an interaction with Mama Osaboji right now at the Calvary Methodist Church.
Methodist Church to meet the Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, who is the presiding bishop here, also chairman of the Christian Council. We want to talk about the new directive given by the president, but we also want to take a look at how life has been in church during COVID-19. And he's gracious enough to meet us this morning right here in his church. Let me just walk to him and say, yes, Bishop. Thank you very much for allowing us into your space.
You are welcome.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that it will be appropriate for you to, first of all, introduce us into the church, as in typically when church service is on Sundays or on any other day, what happens? Because I see you've numbered the seats beautifully. What happens?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for this opportunity and welcome to Calvary Methodist Church. Originally, if we were to go by the old system, this place would be full with about 700 plus people. Then when we came to the new normal, which is the first phase of the new normal, the easing of the restrictions, a pew which could take about 10 people was taking only two people at a time. One was sitting right there, and then the other was there, observing the social distancing. Right. So that was to accommodate the 100 people which the president talked about. Yeah. And at least the room was big enough, and there were a lot of spaces also left in that first phase. But with the new one that is coming from 1st August, what we are going to do is to look at the pew which was seating 10 people and observing the 1 meter in between the social distancing. This pew can now take about 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am here on Sunday.
Yes.
And the next person,
that's right, is seated somewhere here.
Okay.
So that's the distance between you and the next person. Then the next person also sits somewhere there. Then we have another one. So about 5 people will now be observing the distancing.
Okay.
Right. Then the next pew will also have the same. So it means that it's going to take about half of our normal congregants.
Okay, which is about how many people?
It's about 300 now.
Okay.
So we see that we have moved from the 100 to 300.
Okay.
That's using the formula for calculating the social distancing. Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we are going to be using now.
And then now you're doing 2 hours instead of the 1 hour.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. The 1 hour was so restrictive. As Orthodox churches, we go through a liturgy. And the 1 hour was so restrictive that we had to box a lot of things together.
Okay.
And even leave out some of them. You know, Methodists, we are a singing church. And singing our hymns of, let's say, 5 or 6 stanzas, we're now singing just one, leaving out the others. But we sing our faith. So singing one verse and leaving the other was not well enough, was not good enough. It was not speaking to us. But now we can at least sing through all and make sure that the hymn is also speaking to us. We were also to take 3 lessons from Scripture, but because of the time, we're only taking 1.
Okay.
Which was also not good enough as a church.
Whilst we continue the conversation, we will take a seat and then...
right.
Yes. So I just also wanted to ask, so you were doing 1 hour before the new directive, and then you were explaining what goes into the 1 hour.
Yes.
But you could have more services. What was uncomfortable about it?
Yeah, the more services also had to do with logistics as well as personnel. A minister could then have to stand here for all the day going through. In this chapel, we're having 4 services from 7 to 8, 9 to 10, 11 to 12, and then 3 to 4. And this same person going through, and it was quite demanding and tiring for the minister.
Were you getting the 100 people? Were people coming to church?
Sure. In fact, for here, we can say that the first 3 services, we had quite a number of people coming. It was just the late afternoon one which was not well attended.
Okay.
But the mornings, people were here. Yes.
Is this the plea to the president? Is this what you wanted? 2 hours? Do have the number that you originally would have?
Yes, yes. But when the first easing and the protocol came, the heads of churches, that's the religious bodies, we saw that the 1 hour was not enough. And so we made a petition to the government through the Minister of Religious Affairs, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, looking at how we go about our services. So we pleaded for some more hours. So at the last meeting, we told him that if he could extend it to 2 hours, it will be good for us. Also taking into account they call it the behavior of the virus. They were saying that the longer you stay together, then you gave it the power to also spread and all that. So Bible said 2 hours was good enough for us so that we can all leave and then the room can be sanitized. Well,
after all, we still go to work and we do more than 2 hours
Exactly,
at work.
exactly. And the church too was also observing all the protocols to the letter.
Well, but you know, criticisms will be, there are some churches that are still doing online service. You still could reach out to your members and not necessarily physically meet.
Sure.
What's particularly the difficulty?
Yeah, you see, for us as the Methodist Church, we are all over the country. And our church is also for the marginalized people as well as the endowed people. There are many in the rural areas who were not technologically savvy, who were not having these things. And even it was at a cost to even get online to watch and then to, so we felt that it was not good enough for our people in the rural areas. Yeah, that's why we felt that if it could be an in-service where they can meet, at least for that, and then they can go through service. Okay. It was the best.
But have you had any COVID-19 scare?
Not that I know. In the Methodist Church, as well as all the religious organizations, I have not heard. We do meet every Monday to evaluate and then to pray for the nation and to pray for the world. As in the Christian Council? As in the Christian Council and all the religious bodies. In fact, that's a positive thing about COVID for the church. It has brought us together. The Christian Council, Catholic Bishops' Conference, Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Churches, Ghana National Association of Charismatic Churches and all that, and other para churches. We come together every Monday through Zoom and pray. Okay. And this is what COVID has done. Positive. Positive, yes.
And through all the interactions with this grouping, none has talked about the fact that they reported any cases in church?
I have not heard of any scares of COVID-19 or taking temperatures where they saw that the temperature was high and the person was asked to go back home or was isolated or quarantined. No, okay. I have not heard of that.
But this is also bringing perhaps cost to the church? Because now you're providing a lot of water, soap, there's tissue, and then you need an isolated place, an isolation room.
Yeah.
How much is the extra cost that's coming?
For that one to quantify now, I cannot give you figures, but it's cost. It's cost because originally we were not going through all those protocols, providing water, then the alcohol-based sanitizers, even the gun thermometer and all that. We did it at a cost. In the rural areas, we had to help them even with the Veronica buckets and the detergents to be washing their hands, the tissues and all that. Some could not even afford, but we had to provide. So it's extra cost. But we also believe that it is at a cost for which the person is also not relegating God from his or her life. Because that is always very, very crucial. That is very important that you do it at all times. So that your love for God will not grow cold. So providing this to help the person overcome and get closer and related to God, we feel that it is a good service we are giving to the people.
Are you still blessing children? Are you doing the naming ceremony?
Not yet. Not yet, because we have not even brought the Sunday school to church yet, and we think that they should remain in the houses. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're doing the wedding?
Yes, we do weddings.
What's the difference these days?
Still, it's the 1 hour service, and the handshaking, the embracing, you may kiss the bride and all those things. Even though they are one, we will not do it in public as it will have been done previously. Okay. If they can do it whilst they are,
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is still social distancing even when you're getting married?
Well, yeah, you see, in order not to bring any confusion into the minds of people that they are talking about social distancing, they are talking about this, why is it now coming out publicly to the people? You confuse the people. So in order not to, so that people will just say that, oh, let us also do it because after all they are doing it in the church. Let us not. Okay. So you go home. You have more time to do it.
Is this a Methodist directive or this is the entire Christian Council?
Well, with the others, I don't know how they are doing it, yes, but for the Methodists, I believe that that's how.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Are you hoping that in the course of maybe the weeks to come, we will have another review from the 2 hours to strictly now go back to normal if everybody is adhering strictly to the protocols?
Yeah, yes. Now we are talking about the new normal. But we will not go back to the old normal.
We won't go back to having about 700 people
exactly,
in this church.
Because of COVID. Because of COVID. We now have to live with it. And in living with it, what are the protocols that we have to observe? What are the things that can help in preventing it so that people will be free to come to church, so that people will not be reluctant and say that, or will be scared to come to a public place like the church. All right, yeah. So we might go a little further, but not as full capacity where we are bogged down and then we are embracing each other and all that, because we have not found a vaccine yet. And so we need to also be very cautious in what we do.
Okay. All right. In bringing this conversation to a close, so this new, in terms of the 5 people on the pew, would begin in August.
Yes.
What kind of directive is the church sending to the rest of the branches?
The circular will come out to the bishops. For us, that's what we do. We have the structures. So the head office will write to the bishops, and then the bishops will also direct to the superintendents, and then it will go down to the societies, observing the 1 meter social distancing and going through all the protocols laid down by WHO and the Ministry of Health.
Are there some concerns, just before we wrap up, are there concerns that church members are raising in this period?
Not that I know of concerns. In fact, it was in the first one where the numbers were restricted and then the time was also restricted. That one, it was a big concern for all of us. But this one, I think we have all embraced it and we want to work with it and see how this one also churns out. Then we can go back to government, because this is a fight we have to do together. It's not just the government sitting there and then bringing directives. We all have to contribute and make our inputs to make sure that we can fight this common enemy. It's a common enemy that we are all fighting.
Okay, so would there be one service or you still have more services?
We will have more services.
Okay.
You see, even before COVID, Calvary had 2 services. Early morning and then the late morning. But with this one and the numbers still not to full capacity, we'll have to go a little further and make sure that if the 100 cap was 4 services, now we can bring it to about 3 services now. Yes.
All right. Well, Reverend, thank you very much for opening up the church. Maybe next time you find yourself in Adabraka, if you're working in this environment, you need a place to pray, you can just pass by the Calvary Methodist in Adabraka. Are your doors open throughout? Yes.
We have people here. You can walk in, sit, and then pray.
Okay.
And the ministers are also around. Our officers are just here.
Okay.
Just call to the minister. Whatever you will need, they are ready. And thank you for the evangelism you have done this morning. Yeah, you are a good evangelist for welcoming people. We will say that this is Calvary Methodist Church, Adabraka. If you are around or you have no place of worship, just walk in. We have English service, we have Fanti service, P service, and then you will enjoy it, and you meet a lot of people, Christian friends who are ready to embrace it. Embrace in the sense of social distancing.
And no hugging.
That's right. There's no hugging, no hugging. But you will be welcome to worship with us in this chapel.
All right. Thank you, Rev, for helping us understand.
And thank you, too. Thank you.
So that's it from us, from the Calvary Methodist in Adabraka. Over to you, Roland Walker.